Hello, and welcome back to my journey from normal to Norway. Man, it's been a while. I certainly did not intend for it to be this long between videos, which I know I've said before. And yeah, I'm just trying to have grace with myself about that, not judge myself about that, because that is my default, as I'm sure it is for many of you out there to automatically start judging yourself for doing things or not doing things, regardless of how much you want to do them. And yeah, it's just still very trying times. And it's so interesting. I feel like the longer that this goes on, the pandemic and everything, it's just interesting to see how different places around the world are at different stages. It felt like for a little while there, like we were all in this together and in the same scenario. And then now it's just kind of, yeah, it's weird and it's a little difficult, honestly, to kind of see things going differently in different places. And I mean, just personally for myself, I think it definitely comes from a place of like envy a little bit. And yeah, because there are places in the world that are in a much better stage of this. So again, I'm here in LA and just being in the US, and how not well it has been handled here and the leadership's response or lack of response, and how there are so many people in this country who seem to think it's not a big deal or like nothing is going on. And it's like, okay, even if you don't care about your own health, like please take others' health into consideration. So I don't know, it's a strange thing. I'll see pictures of what's going on in Norway right now, and it's like, wow, people are like out and about being able to live their lives and like, not having to wear face masks, and because they handled it so much better. So it's like they're in a much better place. And Also the US being such a big place, with so many people, and just, yeah, very, very, just huge differences across this country. Like various places of the country are in really different stages. And it's been interesting to see as things have started to open up, and then it's like, whoop, the number of cases is going right up there with it, which is, again, personally, in my opinion, not very surprising. But also being here in LA, I feel like we've stayed pretty cautious, and so the whole face mask thing, never went away. And but I've also personally been through a bit of an interesting experience where I can't remember, I'm sure I mentioned in some of my earlier videos, that for the first couple of months of this thing, 2 to 2.5 months, I was still going into work almost every single weekday. I was one of like a half a dozen, one of six people in the whole company of hundreds, who was going in, and it was only for, a couple of hours in the morning and then coming back and working from home in the afternoon. And that definitely gave me some kind of structure, and getting out of the house on a regular basis. And so I don't know that I experienced quite everything that everybody else seemed to be going through, as far as like not knowing what the day or date or month was, and not having the motivation or the energy to get up and do anything. And but then things kind of shifted, and my company has been awesome in all of this, and really being cautious, and about the employees, and they kind of figured out another way. And so I've been working from home exclusively now for over a month. And not coincidentally, it's been a month since the last time I posted a video. So I think I definitely started to experience months later what everybody else was going through before. And so I, was staying home a lot more, and then becoming, I think, more cautious and even more fearful, I'll say. And so while other people were feeling more ready for things to open and for them to go out and about and see people, like I became less ready. I became, that idea just seemed stranger and stranger to me, of like, what? No, why? And I was just spending so much time here alone in my apartment. And again, I'm alone here in this one bedroom apartment doing this all by myself, which I don't recommend. And I don't even have pets. I don't have plants. I don't have anything depending on me, other than myself to, keep alive. Like, I'm the only one that I have to worry about. So, it's definitely been rough. And, I, my sleep schedule got way out of whack. And, um, yeah, just not being motivated to do much of anything. And getting frustrated with myself because yes, I work every day, but the volume of the work is lower, and I've gotten quicker and quicker at doing the working from home situation, so I'm able to get through things quicker and not having the commute. I had a long commute before this. Definitely gives me some extra time in the day, and so I have some extra time that I could be getting things done, and I want to be, going through and reorganizing my entire apartment and getting rid of a lot of stuff. I need to get rid of a lot of stuff that's just weighing me down. But despite having more time to do it, I'm less motivated to do it. So, that definitely comes from places of like confusion and fear and depression and all of that, which I think are perfectly natural to be going through in this time. Um, but yeah, I definitely have spent more time in recent weeks, like hanging around, not made motivated to do much, not leaving my apartment for a few days on end. I mean, like, so not even opening the windows. I like literally not seeing the outdoors for a few days in a row. And so it's like, ooh, I need to go check the mail, or I need to go grocery shopping, or I'll make myself kind of get out. Which today I went grocery shopping. Um, so anyway, that's just kind of like an update on where I've been and what I've been going through. But that was not the whole point of this video. I actually had this idea a while back of kind of like a series that I wanted to do, and I think I mentioned it in one of the videos a long time ago. Um, and now in my mind, I have at least three different kind of like series that are percolating. So I figured, let's go ahead and start one, So here is that. I am starting on the first of those ideas, which was to talk about people who have inspired me, and kind of spend a video on each person. And I have three to start out in my mind, but as that list grows, I will do more videos on that. So this is not going to be a you know all right in an order kind of thing, but as they come to me, um, and I'll just title them all similarly. So anyway, um, and this is not to be in any particular order of like, this is the person who motivates me the most, or inspires me the most. Like, so, but here is a big one. So I'll go ahead and start talking about that now, finally. And so it is Brené Brown, who I'm sure many of you know of. And if you don't, definitely check out her work. There's many ways to kind of do some research and get educated on who she is and what she does. I first became aware of her, as I think many people did some years back, from a TED talk that she did that, kind of made her blow up kind of overnight a little bit. And so she's had a few TED, or at least two, but I've watched TED Talks, and she's now been writing some books, and she's a researcher. She lives in Texas, and she talks a lot about courage and vulnerability and um, all of these things that I love hearing about, and I love learning about and exploring in myself. And I'm a big fan of these things in life. I'm definitely not one of those people, who is trying to kind of like hide away the stuff that I deal with, or like hide parts of myself. As you know, if you're watching this and you've watched some of my earlier videos where I've talked about the whole point of this YouTube channel, I am all about exploring my vulnerabilities and sharing my vulnerabilities, and using those to connect with other people who might be experiencing similar things or feeling similar ways. And I've spent so much time feeling alone and lonely, and I want to do everything I can to help other people not feel that way or feel that way less. So I'm all about all the stuff that she is about. And I have read some of her books, and then I have some more that are like, sitting on my nightstand ready to go. And there's The Gifts of Imperfection was the first one that I read, and then I think the second one I read was Daring Greatly, and that in particular was one that was really on my mind actually back when I was starting this YouTube channel. It kind of all came about from a Theodore Roosevelt quote, um, that talks about daring greatly, and I find it very moving. And by the end of it, it's this like, if I'm going to fail, at least I'm going to fail daring greatly. Like, I'd rather do that than fail having sat around and done nothing and tried nothing, you know? But it talks about the guy who shows up to the arena. That's the one who, credit goes to that person, not the critic of that person, but the person who shows up and tries and, experiences the failures and the setbacks and keeps going and keeps trying. And whether that ends in a victory or a failure, it's about all of that effort and work that they put in and really showing up for themselves. And so I was thinking about that so much when I was starting this YouTube channel. I was like, this is me entering the arena. I'm not going to be a spectator anymore. I'm not going to be, standing across the street on the sidewalk looking at the arena wishing that I could be part of it. Like, this is me. I'm getting a little emotional even talking about it. This is me entering the arena, showing up for myself, showing up to live my life, not just exist through it, and to, I guess, fight for myself and my life and who I want to be and the things that I want to do, and yeah, just what I want to be about. So, yeah, Brené Brown has been really inspirational, motivational to me. And even recently, which is also something I wanted to talk about, she started a podcast called Unlocking Us. Um, and she started it actually a few months ago in March, and it was right when, at least here in the US, all of the quarantining thing was starting. Um, and that was not her intention. Her intention, I believe, was to launch the podcast at South by Southwest in Austin. That was, of course, canceled, as so many things have been this year. And so she's been doing, some of her podcast episodes, excuse me, are her talking, and then some of them are her interviewing other people, and those have been, recorded via Zoom and all of that. And subject matter that has shown up consistently has to do with this pandemic and quarantine. And I know that would not have been the case otherwise with her podcast. But it's so I was aware of that she was doing it. I was kind of like trying to keep up with other podcasts, and again, experiencing that whole not motivated to do much, not being able to take on anything new for a while there. I was like, I cannot take any more new information or entertainment in. But this past weekend, I was like, you know what? Let me just give it a listen. I'm sure I'm going to enjoy it. So there have been 21 podcast episodes now. And over the last few days, I've listened to 10. So I'm almost halfway through. And I really, really have been enjoying them. And, I don't know if I would have been ready at the beginning of quarantine to hear all of the things. It wouldn't have hit me in the same way, but there's been so many things that she's talked about and that she's talked about with her guests that have been eye-opening to me and that have really been helpful specifically during this time with the pandemic. And, one that comes to mind immediately is the thought of over-functioning and under-functioning. And, you're one of those two. Everybody is, and it's a result of things that are experienced and learned over the course of your life, and going back to your childhood. And it's not that either one is good or bad or right or wrong or shameful or any of that. It's just good to know about yourself. And as she was describing them, I was like, oh man, I'm an underfunctioner, which is not across the board, but it is typical of younger children. Typically, she was saying the oldest kids are overfunctioners and the youngest ones are underfunctioners, and I'm the younger of two girls, and I am an underfunctioner. So, like, when stress or crisis or any of that shows up, the way she was talking about it was become less competent. Like, I kind of like curl in. I feel less able to do things. I'm kind of like looking for direction and somebody else to take charge. And um, so it's fascinating to me to know that about myself, to not say, okay, this is a bad thing and you want to change it and what's wrong with you, but to just kind of realize that about myself. It kind of, it explains some things for sure that I've been experiencing through these last few months. And I don't know, for me, it kind of gives me permission, I feel, to be more myself, to kind of like see what's going on, to recognize what it is, to be able to, you know, label it or talk about it, and then to say, okay, I see that. Um, and now that I know what it is, how do I move on from it? You know, how do I um, accept that as part of myself and kind of ask myself, okay, what can I show up to do today? You know, what task can I take on? Um, I don't know. It just, for me, it makes me feel more able to take the next step forward. Just having that information about myself. It's not this like mystery anymore of like, oh, what's wrong with me? You know. So that's just one example. But I've taken so much from her podcast so far. So as all of her other things, I mean, I recommend her books. I recommend her TED Talks. I recommend. She has I don't know what to call it, a special or something up on Netflix that I have watched from last year, and now this podcast. I mean, she's got lots of work out there. If you're interested in any of those things, talking about courage and vulnerability and shame and daring greatly, then I recommend you to Brené Brown. Yeah, she's done a lot for me, and I hope that if you know of her work already, that she's helped you as well, and if you don't, um, I hope that she will. So, if you already know of her and love her, or if you check out anything from her based off of this, and end up really enjoying it, um, let me know. I would really enjoy knowing kind of your takeaways from what she's done, and ways that she's motivated and inspired you, um, anything of that sort. So let me know. Um, I'm really glad to talk to you all, and I hope that you are doing well, or as well as possible. And as difficult as things can be, I do have faith in us and in the goodness of humanity, and um, I trust that we will look out for each other and that we will get through this. That we will someday be all together on the other side of this. So for now, thanks for watching. Thanks for being part of this part of my life. And I will be back with you sooner rather than later to talk some more. And as always, until then, Hada.